Welcome to The Right Frame of Mind, a podcast that explores the mental hurdles of a writing career. I'm your host, Adrienne Giordano. In each episode, I talk with an author about a challenge they faced and the mindset shift that got them through. Let's dive into the writer's mind. My guest today is New York Times bestselling author Jayne Ann Krentz / Amanda Quick / Jane Castle. Welcome to the show, Jane.
Thank you for inviting all three of us.
Yes.
Much obliged. Uh,
And I'm so excited to chat with you about all three of you because I've been a reader of your work for years, but I first found you as Amanda Quick. And then I was like, oh, she writes contemporary too. And then there was Jane Castle. So you really had, it's almost a master class in longevity with your, three pen names. Um, can you chat a little bit about that and just talk about
sure,
the ups and downs
sure.
of it and managing it?
So my advice is don't get pen names. Don't go there. Learn from my mistakes, people.
Wow.
um, the problem with having three pen names, especially in this era, is it's just impossible to build three brands successfully. It's just, more power to if you think you can handle it, but it's very, very difficult to build one brand, as we both know, and trying to
Yes.
keep three of them alive on social media I can't even imagine. I've been doing my best to consolidate, making sure everywhere it says Jayne Ann Krentz, it also says Amanda Quick and
Yeah.
Jane Castle. But I can tell you that if I go to any signing, I can guarantee that at least a third of the people in the signing line will say, "Oh, I didn't know you wrote as Jayne Ann Krentz," or "I didn't know you." It's just awful. So my advice is, in this era, pen names are not a good decision. And I know people have solid reasons for using them.
Yep.
You think you're doing something entirely different. You don't want to startle your audience. But I also think that there are smarter ways to differentiate the various aspects of your career. You can use series names. You can use packaging. You can use yeah, just something that indicates the other world, if that's important to you to do that. But the forget the multiple name thing. Advice number one. Yeah, it's
Yeah. Well, and I think we don't really think about all the behind the scenes stuff when we think about pen names, and especially
yeah,
in this digital age, right?
yeah.
So, yeah,
There's just
wow.
so much publishing going on, so many books out there. It's going to be hard enough to just promote one name. I understand, like I said, I totally understand why people do it. Now, having said that, I will say that having those three different worlds has been a great boon to me as a writer, because I actually write the same core story in all three worlds. What changes are the fictional landscapes. So in the Amanda Quick world, you've got the historical landscapes. In the Jayne Ann Krentz world, you have the contemporary landscapes. And in the Jane Castle world, you have the futuristic. But if you look under the hood, I lean Gothic and I love romantic suspense. And that's going to be the story that you're going to get,
In
regardless of the
all of them.
setting. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that
So,
is the one thing that has always amazed me because even though, you're writing in literally, you're writing contemporaries, you're writing historicals, you're writing futuristic, the branding just seems so seamless between them, which is just amazing.
like I said, it's an illusion created by those fictional landscapes. Um,
Yeah.
the stories are. There's always a murder.
Yeah.
There, and I always write romantic suspense, and my working definition of romantic suspense is two people who are forced to work together in order to survive. And to
Mhm.
get to that point, they have to overcome their mistrust or distrust of each other. They don't know if they can trust each other, but in the end, they realize they're the only ones they can trust or to have their backs. So that is romantic suspense to me. It's almost in a way like a buddy movie. Um, in
Yeah.
the end, you start out bickering and arguing and everything, and you've got issues between the two of you, but in the end, it's the two of you against the world, and
Yeah.
that's my story. So you would be amazed at how the feeling and the vibe of the story can change by changing that underlying fictional landscape.
Hmm.
And that the historical just sends a whole different set of expectations out there, and
Yes.
yeah, the contemporary, there's thing, and it gives you, the writer, a bunch of different plot ideas. It's been very refreshing for me to come out of one world and move into the other.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. How that helps your creative process.
A lot.
Yeah.
It's very, it's what's kept me loving the story all these years. Um,
Wow.
just that
Sort of
change
a
of environment.
cleansing
Yeah.
of the palate.
I don't know. Just the change of environment. I don't know. It
Yeah.
just, it's just fun to keep moving around between those three worlds. And there's stories I can't do in one or the other. I mean, there's stories you can't do in the historical world that you can do in the contemporary world, and et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah. So, how do you decide which world you're writing in next? What does that process look like for you?
what's under contract?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a business
Yeah.
choice. Yeah. I mean, if it
Yeah.
weren't a business choice, if I were publishing independently, it would still, I'd still be looking at the business side of it. If I needed to get another book out there before the other one came out, for whatever reason, because I wanted to capture more of an audience for one name or the other, I might make decisions slightly differently. But as long as I'm with a traditional publisher, it's a contract thing. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you just in thinking about all the different storylines, all of that, right? Was there a time when you faced just a really significant challenge with trying to manage all three of these?
Well, I've certainly killed off my own career multiple times, so each of those was a challenge. Um, Probably the most significant time was when I was writing. This is like 20 years ago. I wrote my book of my heart, series of my
Yeah.
heart, I should say, which were the first futuristic romantic suspense stories that I did. Crystal Flame, Sweet Starfire, Shields Lady. And by the time the third one came out, my career was dead in the water. Nobody was buying those books, and nobody wanted futuristic romance. At that point,
Wow.
this was just before the dawn of indie publishing. So there was no option for me to go out on my own. It was New York or nothing.
Hmm.
So I had to reinvent myself, and looked, I took for the first time, I've been writing intuitively, as most of us do at the beginning of our careers. But at that point, I realized I had to figure out what I really wanted to write and where else it could go. So I looked at the science fiction books, and I realized that if you took away the futuristic settings and the odd little animals and the spaceships and all that good stuff, um, what you had left was a marriage of convenience, or a forced marriage story.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
thought, well, Jane, there's a place for that. and that's when I and that's when I invented Amanda Quick.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Love
that,
that. Yeah.
yeah, it's and the lesson I would pass on from that, if anybody is interested, is you don't have to know your core story to write indefinitely. Um, you can do it intuitively your whole life, but sooner or later in this business, probably you're going to have to figure it out, because you'll need to know where else you can take it. Because maybe the bottom drops out of the vampire story. Maybe the bottom
Mhm.
drops out of the
Yes.
rom-com. We've all seen genres ebb and flow, in our careers. They come and they go, and authors get stranded because they don't know. I have to write vampires, or I only want to write blah blah blah. Cowboys, whatever. And that's a career killing attitude. What you really need to
Yeah.
do is figure out your core story and where else you could take it. And
Yeah.
and I think you should be able to define your core story in like 2 or 3 words. I mean, I my core story, I can look back since the beginning of my career, I can see it. Issues of trust, the risk of trust, and reinvention. My characters are always in the process of having to reinvent themselves.
Yes.
So, but
Yeah.
everybody's got everybody's got a core story, and everybody's got the themes, the emotional themes and conflicts that compelled them to write in the first place. And when you get up against a wall, that's what you want to go back to.
Yeah. Figuring out what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I can remember, and it's funny because as you're speaking about this, I remember taking a class on writing log lines, my screenwriting class on writing log lines. And it was really so powerful for me because it's essentially what the log line is this is your story. And, I think it's 11 words. And everybody says, oh my God, I can't break my story down to 11 words. And, really you can.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many conflicts and themes that we read or are compelled to write we don't even think about. Some people are into the found family story. The
Yeah.
hugely, hugely compelling sort of storyline. Others are facing the apocalypse of some kind, a small, maybe small version of
Yeah.
apocalypse, and they're trying to overcome that. The coming of age story. There will always be a place for the coming of age story. We're seeing it now in romanticy, and that sense of finding your power, or having your
Yeah.
protagonist find their power. I mean, those are all universal themes that can go into any area of fiction.
Love that. All right. So, is there one? And again, I'm thinking about managing three pen names, right? So, is there one mindset shift or one habit that's helped you with just managing all of it?
No, I,
No? Yeah.
I, I mean, it's just sort of, if there was, I've forgotten what it was back at the beginning. It's possible it's possible I developed some coping techniques back then and just don't even think about them anymore.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's more a question of stepping into the vibe of that fictional landscape. So when I'm in the Amanda Quick world, I'm part of me is thinking in terms of what's socially acceptable, what's culturally common, what's the attitudes
Hmm.
of the time, and and keeping in mind that anytime we write, we are pulling on a myth of that age. And by that, I mean every era has its own mythologies, and there are multiple mythologies for every era. So, for example, I set 8 books in the 1930s, and there's a half dozen ways you can go with the 1930s. You can go with that ominous drums of war coming from the oncoming war, and the fact that a war just ended and now we're looking at another one coming. I mean, that's a very specific kind of myth rooted in reality, because they always are.
Yep.
You could look at the stress of the on people of the financial situation of the time, the Great Depression. There's a lot of myths wrapped up in surviving the Great Depression that you could write about. And I went with Hollywood. I'm sorry. I went with the lighthearted, glitzy, romantic side with lots of the whole, which is another myth which comes to us from the 30s, straight out of the movies. It was
Yeah.
obviously a mythology at the time that people were clinging to. It
And it was
sold
fun. Yeah.
tickets, yeah.
It's
And I think it
fun.
also captured the underlying optimism of the American mindset.
Yes.
And that's traditionally that has been a very American thing, that optimism, that underlying optimism, the future's going to get better.
Yeah.
And that's right there in the movies. And so,
And
but it's true
especially
if
for
you
romance readers. because they want that happily ever after.
Yeah.
They're looking for the escapism. Yeah.
Well, and because and romance is the most optimistic of all the genres.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's that's its mission, I
Fantastic.
think.
Yes. Fantastic. So if you were to look back now, thinking about, your pre-published days when you were just trying to get a career going, is there a piece of advice you would give Jane from back then, now that you've been down this road?
Here's the thing, Adrian. I think if you can stop writing, you will.
Yeah.
I think if you can't stop writing, it becomes a compulsion. You need to do it whether you sell or not. And I don't think there's any middle ground, really. It's
Yeah.
yeah, advice or non-advice isn't going to help one way or the other. The compulsion either has to be there or not.
Yeah.
Um, and for
It's
me,
just
it was
finding
there.
a way to get it done. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just too hard
Yeah.
and too frustrating. And there's too much downside to it in terms of emotions and as we anybody who's been in the business like us knows, um,
Yeah.
rejection is a common thing, and there's no need to put up with it unless you just really, really get more out of writing than you do go down from the rejections. That makes sense. That the
Yeah.
writing is in itself has to be reward enough.
Yes. Yeah, because the rejections, it's funny because I was having this conversation with a writer friend of mine, last week because they especially I feel like in this climate with so many books out there, right? The rejections, although over time, like I've learned to manage, I've learned to, deal with it, but it still stinks, right? It
Yeah.
still
Nope.
stinks.
Nobody likes it. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
I don't care how helpful it may prove to be. It's just
Yeah.
human nature not to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Plus,
my son
yeah.
is a college. My son played college baseball, played baseball through college, and now he's a college coach. And I remember he and I were having a conversation one day, and it was really interesting because I said to him, the thing about baseball and publishing is they're both games of failure. You have to get really comfortable with failing.
And keep coming back for more. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my
It takes
gosh.
us, I think it does take a special kind of personality. But I don't know
Yeah,
what it is. It's just there or not. It's,
right. It's just having a passion for the work and yeah,
yeah.
for
And I think
sure.
that on a day-to-day basis, it's learning to take satisfaction from the small things, like just, that feeling when the scene comes together. And all of us,
Yes.
it's just a tiny part of the whole book. It's just maybe a one-page scene, but it's a whole little story in there, and you did it, and it works. And you can
Yes.
there's a pleasure in that um, there's no money involved. It's just satisfaction that the
Yeah.
little scene worked.
Yeah, and it's learning to measure success not on sales, right?
Yeah,
Because it is such a tough industry that yeah, when you do have those moments where you're working on a scene and all of a sudden it's like it all comes together and it's like, "Oh my gosh."
and the glory of today is that you can actually get it published.
Yes. Yeah.
We may only sell books to our friends and family, but
Yeah. But
but
you'll
we can
see
get
your name on a book cover.
but we can get
Yeah.
published. Yeah, we
Yeah.
could be right there on Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, a lot of newer authors don't understand how much marketing is such a big part of the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Well, it's one of the reasons that I've been grateful to be able to keep publishing with a traditional publisher because they do undertake some of that burden. Um,
Yeah.
but even that said, it's still more and more it's the author that has to handle it. Has to.
Yeah.
Nobody else can really do your Facebook page or your Instagram. Uh, TikTok, whichever way you choose to go, it takes that personal touch, and as the author, you're the only one who can provide it. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
and for most of us, it wasn't why we got into the business in the first place.
Right.
It's not part of our calling, I guess you would say. It's the business
Yes.
side. Yeah, it's the necessary side. And every business has that side. Every art has. If you're a painter, you've got to find a gallery that will hang your work.
Yes.
Just painting the picture and leaving it in your basement isn't going to do squat. So
Yeah.
every art has its business side, and social media right now is where it's at for those of us who are writing books. So yeah,
Yeah.
do you have any tips? You're the one that's you've seen more of the social
Oh,
media side than I have.
yeah.
I'm listening.
It's just, yeah, it's just like you said, it's figuring out how to get above the noise. I mean, I feel like I was so lucky going into the indie publishing boom because I had an audience going into
Okay.
that,
Yeah, smart.
and those are, when all else fails, because, and, I've done it all. I've done the Facebook ads and the AMS ads and all of that. And, an algorithm changes and the bottom falls out. And, you know, it, I always just go back to those core readers. My newsletter list is like
Yeah.
my saving grace.
Yep.
Yeah,
I hear you. Yeah. That newsletter list is the one thing you can control, the one thing you own, the
it
one thing you
is.
can manage. Yeah. I
Yeah, it
agree. I
is.
agree.
And, I learned that just going through when Facebook ads were all, it's sort of like the genres falling out, right? Okay, Facebook ads are the thing now, AMS is the thing now. And eventually, the ads peter out and you need to redo it all. And yeah, it's just
Yeah.
finding what works for you.
Yeah.
And I've had success with all of them at one time or another. Um, it's a constant
I know. I know.
it's a constant churn, as they say.
I know. I know. And we've all experimented with trying to hire someone to manage that side of things, and it's only partially
Yeah,
successful. Yeah.
yeah. Because like you said, you have to have your person. I think people on, especially on social media, especially on our pages, I feel like readers want to just connect with us as people, right?
Sure.
Whether we want to share our private lives or not, or So, like me, I always get clicks when I show pictures of walking my dog in the morning with the sunrise. They love my goofy eared rescue. Like,
Can't go wrong with a dog.
yeah, that's for sure, especially a nutty one like I have. But, I think people just want to connect with that side. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
it's a challenge.
it's a very entrepreneurial career.
Yes.
We're
Yeah,
all
and that's the big difference,
entrepreneurs.
I think, between indie publishing and traditional publishing. When you're indie publishing, that is an entrepreneurial mindset. It's,
Yeah.
figuring out sales and where they're coming from and
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah. So
I will say that some of the people I know who are writers who are most satisfied with their careers right now are indie publishing.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
be-
because they have the control. Yeah,
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 yeah.
I could see it.
It could,
Absolutely. And I've done both, right? And I consider myself a hybrid author. Um,
same for me. Yeah.
yeah, and there are times when I love just handing over the manuscript and saying, "Here you go."
Don't bother me.
Yeah, but then there are times where I'm like, maybe that blurb can be brushed up a little bit. Maybe we could do something there. What can we change a keyword here, right? So,
Update the cover. Yeah.
yeah, all that stuff. I kind of like having the best of both worlds, I guess.
Yeah. I think a lot of us who were traditionally published have gone the hybrid route.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and we can put out books so much faster too.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, that's huge. some of the big publishers are booked up 2 or 3 years out. It's
Yeah.
that's very frustrating. You finished a book and you can't even see it in the,
See it for 2 years.
yeah, that's painful.
It is
Yeah.
painful. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, this has been my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I will put all your links, everything in the show notes, but is there one place in particular people can find you, or where do you hang out most?
Um, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, but my home on the web, the place where the news, and where things are that I really work to keep current, um, is my website, which is JayneAnnKrentz.com. Jane with a Y.
Okay. Jane with a
Um,
Y.
and once you're there, you can sign up for my newsletter.
All right. Good stuff. And if you haven't read Jane's books, dive in. They're awesome.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you for listening to The Right Frame of Mind. The Right Frame of Mind is a member of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. I'll be back soon with another great interview and more tips for managing the mental challenges of a creative career.